Okay, let's see what's on Disney Plus today. Alright, let's see. Star Wars, maybe? I don't know. Whoa, no way. Star Wars in anime? Star Wars Visions? Okay. I gotta call Tim.
Gotta love me some Star Wars Lego. Oh, my dude, Chris. What's going on?
You're not gonna believe this.
What do you mean?
You gotta go on Disney Plus right now. There is Star Wars and anime.
On Disney, you gotta come
Yeah, go right
on
now.
Disney Plus.
You gotta get the gang together. We gotta do a collaboration right now. Yeah, get everyone.
I think I have an idea.
Call, do it.
I know exactly who to call. Carlos?
Got you, Tim. I'll give Chris a shout, and we'll get this thing going on.
We got a special one today. I'm late to the party because this one dropped a little while ago, but I wanted to do something special because, well, this one simply deserves it. We are talking about Star Wars Visions. Disney dropped an anime series about Star Wars where they hired a bunch of anime creators to give their own interesting take and perspective on the Star Wars world. This is an anthology series where they dropped 9 mini episodes that are roughly 15 minutes each, so that alone should be enough reason to check these out because the time commitment isn't very big. But what is big is how did these episodes land with Star Wars fans? And how did they land with anime fans? And what about people who enjoy both? So I thought, what better way to get a wider perspective as an anime fan who also enjoys Star Wars than to get some Star Wars fans who go much deeper into the Star Wars lore and can really help me see it from their perspective and how it ties into the world of Star Wars. So I called on my good friends Tim and Carlos from the Nerd Room, who have an amazing podcast. And if you enjoy all things Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and just all things nerd, then you will absolutely want to check them out. I'll put a link in the description to their podcast, and all of our Twitter handles will be in the description as well.
Come along. Jabba's been looking for you.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. So I've got here Tim and Carlos from the Nerd Room. And as you know, the reason why I have them here is because we're going to be going into Star Wars Visions, and I've got nothing better than Star Wars experts with me.
What's going on, guys? Tim from the Nerd Room Podcast. I'm stoked to be here with Chris to talk Star Wars, Visions. I'm very, very excited.
I, too, am from the Nerd Room Podcast. Carlos here, Chris's Portuguese brother from another mother.
Hell yeah.
I don't know that I'd bandy myself as an expert so much as the guy who finances a Star Wars expert in the acquisitions that she wants to make. But by osmosis, I've picked up a few things, so hopefully I can contribute.
That's perfect. And this is going to be our first collaboration, officially, I guess. So I'm really excited about that too. It's been a long time coming. So yeah, this is great.
Yeah, you couldn't have picked a better mashup at this point. We got a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of the anime world coming together here on Disney Plus. It's perfect.
And I think something good with that is, okay, each of you kind of give your rundown on, have you ever watched an anime, or how much would you say you know about anime in general?
Yeah, man, my anime experience is slim. It is almost exclusively limited to Star Wars Visions.
Okay, that's actually perfect. That's exactly perfect. How about you, Carlos?
Yeah, I dabbled a little bit back in high school with like the classics, like Akira and Ninja Scroll, like the ones that everybody's seen. And then the lure for me has always been the East meets West kind of collaboration. So stuff like the Animatrix, and then of course Gotham Knight, the bridge between Batman Begins and the Dark Knight, and then just stuff like Batman Ninja, of course, I mess with, but then also a few like the X-Men anime and those type of ones. Yeah. So I certainly wouldn't be swinging anything around amongst that anime crew. I know where my place is, off in the corner, but I know enough to respect it. And and Street Fighter the animated movie, I watched that. A million times.
Yeah.
So if you're off in the corner, Carlos, when am I on the window tapping to get in?
Yeah, you're outside tapping.
Pouring rain.
So I think we briefly talked about that before and just how you felt about it.
Yeah.
But you'll be glad to know one of these episodes was made by the same studio.
Oh, excellent. Hopefully you liked it better than you like Batman Ninja. Because I was hyped about that one, and you're like, son, no.
Oh,
Just
yeah. Yeah, Batman Ninja was not a good. I'm overall not a big fan of just that 2D, 3D kind of mashup. It doesn't sit very well with me. It's not that it can't look good. I just don't feel like it's quite there yet. It looks too smooth and just too, I don't know. It just, there's something off-putting about it that either looks too video gamey or not enough like natural, just 2D animation style. And it's like in this weird limbo mix right now. What was that Marvel show that just came out? What If? Yes. I thought that they did that actually really well. That whole 2D kind of, but it was more computer animated styles. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, it looked good. And it's interesting because when it comes to animation in particular, we're almost in my household exclusively on kind of that Disney Pixar 3D animation stuff. And I have some questions for you guys a little later about this animation style because it's really a big introduction for me. And having it span, like, I think it was 7 different studios that did this, that contributed to this project. So getting that mix of different styles was very eye-opening for me.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what's cool about this whole thing in general, because it does exactly that, where it can bring in anime fans to Star Wars, but then it potentially can grab some Star Wars fans and throw them into the world of anime. Because I think it's kind of one of the biggest misconceptions. When somebody says that they don't like anime, it's kind of hard in the sense because people tend to think that anime is just this one thing and they're all kind of just branched off this one thing, where anime in itself is just a medium. No matter what it is that you like, no matter how niche it is, there's a topic or genre within that style that will cover it. So that's all anime is. Anime is just another medium to convey a story. And yeah.
It'd be like saying I don't like animation or I don't like film because you don't like.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I think once people get that separated and don't look at it that way, and I think it's just more so here, like in the West, like we just tend to have the more typical stuff. Like you've got your Dragon Balls, you've got your, which we know Troy is a huge fan of, but you know, you've got shows like that where people tend to think that's what anime is, but there's just so much more. Of course, it's just whatever you dive yourself into.
I think the automatic assumption is that it's all Pokemon, right?
Yeah,
it's all
exactly.
Pokemon and it's all Dragon Ball. That's all we know. West slumming it, like I said.
Or Star Wars Visions in my case.
So what was like one of the first episodes that, we're not just gonna go break it down one by one, but I think just kind of what was one of the episodes that really stood out to each of you?
For me, it's actually the first one. The one done in kind of like the ink style. Yeah, that one really grabbed me. I love the look of it with the black and white and then just the sabers and the blood splatter being shown in full color. That one was cool. I appreciated most of them. So yeah, that one was the duel, was that episode. But right up to like the TOB1 with the kind of Astro Boy Jedi robot. Like
Yes.
Yeah, that one was kind of charming too.
Like a Pinocchio Geppetto thing going on a bit.
Hey man, we're in Chris's world with anime.
My bad. My bad.
Gotta be Astro Boy.
Astro Boy, sure.
But that's actually perfect that you mentioned Astro Boy, because as soon as I saw that episode, and I guess you were not too familiar with have you heard of Astro Boy, Tim?
Probably. I've heard those two words, maybe not together.
Okay, I'm sure if you saw a picture of Astro Boy, you would recognize the character. It's a classic, but it's interesting because the moment I saw that episode, I was like, oh, I didn't know the creator of Astro Boy did one of the episodes. But when I looked it up, it wasn't. It was completely a different studio. It had nothing to do with Astro Boy at all. I guess it was just like a homage to that show or series in general, but I thought it was really cool.
Where they were like, man, we don't want to make a Star Wars show. Well, let's make Astro Boy because we love Astro Boy. Because like the whole first like 3/4 of it essentially until it gets to the climax, it's basically an Astro Boy thing with very loose kind of connections to Star Wars.
Yep, 100%. That's all I saw too. I'm either thinking they ran out of time and they're like, oh shit, we need something. let's just do that. Let's just do Astro Boy, and we'll just throw some Star Wars on top.
I did kind of like it. So going back to that whole idea of blending the themes of things covered in anime and then Star Wars, I did kind of dig how they played with the whole concept of droids. And droids has always been something that's been interesting to me in Star Wars. Are they intelligent? Are they supposed to be sentient with their own set of emotions, or are they not? And that's something that they play with in the anime world tons, like from stuff like Astro Boy through Ghost in the Shell, and to do that here, that was kind of neat, right? And then that they had that moment, like spoilers, but there's the Jedi killer, so I don't know if he was supposed to be a Sith warrior or not, but that he comes and he finds out that character is actually a droid, and he's like, a droid can't be a Jedi, and that was kind of a neat thing to play with. A cool idea as to, well, what do you need to be a Jedi, and is there a possibility that this droid is more than just a bunch of parts put together? Does he have a soul, right? That was the whole thing with Astro Boy, wanted to be a real boy all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like Pinocchio. No, for me, I have to say, Twins was one of my favorite ones. With the, I believe that was episode 3.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
really enjoyed that one. That one felt very, very Star Wars, like the story, but the moments that I think maybe the medium afforded it was pretty cool too, like the fighting in space and the different suits, and that Star Destroyer Death Star thing they had was really cool, and the duality of the ships and the connection, and then the Kyber with the twins as well. And they have that really wicked battle that's finished with a hyperspace lightsaber swipe, which was like, whoa, like what is going on here?
Yeah.
So I really, really enjoyed that. And the Ninth Jedi was another one I really liked. It was interesting because a lot of the themes played around Sith Lords and lightsabers and Kybers. Like there's a lot of that throughout here. That was like some of the most consistent threads that we saw in all of these, although they're telling very different stories. But yeah, the twins and the Ninth Jedi. The Ninth Jedi with the... I believe it was they were calling the Jedi to a certain spot, and then they all get handed these lightsabers. And I love this idea that they get handed a lightsaber, anyone, and as soon as you turn it on, it kind of shows what side you're on. I think that was so cool. And you have that one that's almost no color to it until she was able to become a Jedi of sorts, or on the light side, and then it lit green. And then you had the purple one that came out, even though it was red, but once the dark side wasn't penetrating him anymore, it turned purple. I love that theme and those elements that they played with in the Ninth Jedi there.
I think that was one of those moments, especially watching it, where I'm like, okay, this is that perfect blend of just that over-the-top anime style that you get with Star Wars, but still respecting Star Wars. At least to me, as more of a casual Star Wars fan, that felt to me like the most Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably to most of these episodes.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there, and that might be why it's at the top of my list. Is it kind of had that Star Wars, but it also, like you said, it layered in some of those elements where it pushes a little bit the limits, but I think in the right ways creatively. This here, I think it nicely balances that familiar with a bit of creative freedom and elements that haven't been played with, and that really highlight the medium that they're using to depict and tell these stories. And I like that piece of it.
It was interesting to me to see the anime just kind of stretch to build on that theme, because like when you say Star Wars loves the familiar, they've made the same movie like 4 times, and they only have like 9 movies. It's like, oh, let's go blow up the big ship, and the one chosen guy will do it, and we'll hang out on the sand planet and go for some drinks, and like, yeah, I love stuff like they had the one with like the village where they had like the Jedi who was in hiding, and they're just showing the influence of rogue element that had imparted themselves onto this town. And those are things that you never see Star Wars play with, but you gotta think like the wheels were turning, and like this anime studio has done something so much more interesting and dynamic that we've never seen in the Star Wars world before. So maybe you do play with something like that, like maybe you take a character like your Rey or your Finn and have them dumped into like an unfamiliar planet with pushing back against people being oppressed and all that kind of stuff, and off you go, right?
And what was cool too about just kind of continuing to build on that theme there is that what Star Wars allows you to do, like these are 15-20 minute long episodes, right? So there's not a lot of time to set up characters and context and planets and this and that, but Star Wars allows you to have this very quick black and white, good and evil, oppressed, not oppressed, red lightsabers, green or blue lightsabers, right? You very, very quickly get the gist of the episode. And then it sets it up within the first couple minutes, and then you're off and running telling a different story, which is incredible. You look at the time that, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or DC, that they have to spend developing characters and getting you attached. Like, I don't know if it's the medium, and I don't know if this is common, but I felt myself really engaged with the characters very quickly. I wasn't worrying about, well, I don't know the backstory of this, or I don't feel connected to this. It was, this is good, this is bad, and then they ran with it, right? It was very simplistic, but also complex in addressing, like you're saying, Carlos, like pretty big issues in some of these, environmental and oppression. And it was, I really I found myself, as I continued on through this series. I was really slow at the start, and then once I got into it, I just found myself being like, click play, I want more of this, click play. Let's expand on this story.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I would love if they ever do continue this whole kind of Star Wars Visions idea. It would be really cool if they kind of just pick and choose just some of them to branch out even further. So maybe do turn them into more like half-an-hour episodes, or either that or just like focus on one story and then just really branch it out to 6, 8, 9 episodes. I think that would be really cool too, because some of those stories I really did want more of them.
Yeah, and some of them set up for more, right? There's another story that can be told here, and whether this was a really cool testing ground, which one lands with the population, which studio produces something that connects with a really broad audience, and then we're going to bring back Star Wars Vision Season 2 is actually, like you said, maybe just 2 of them that run for 3-4 episodes each, and you get a bit more time with characters, and you can explore some more of the themes and even what they can do with the animation style too.
What would you say? So for me, that first episode, like the duel that we were talking about, the black and white, the one thing that I think especially anime fans will appreciate right away, it's following that more manga style, which is like in Japan, like comics are just black and white. So it's really paying homage to that. I thought that right away was just so cool. And then just splashing in that color towards the end. This doesn't really make any sense, but yet it's really cool. Like how he's like putting his, the lightsaber into, what do you call that?
Like the hilt?
Yeah, that's it. The hilt. The way he's like putting it, I'm like, how would that even work? That doesn't make any sense.
They had a few characters that did that, right? Because in the
yeah,
last
yeah, you're right.
episode, there was a few, but I appreciate it, right? Like that's a big thing. Like I'm just finished emerging out of the glory that is Ghost of Tsushima, and that was a big thing, right? Like any chance they had to showcase the katana coming out of the hilt, they did.
Yeah,
Like,
got to do the little pop and then just quick slice.
and the wipe down and the put back into the
Yes.
into the hilt.
But how do you wipe down a lightsaber?
Well, it's interesting you guys say that too about the lightsabers, and maybe you can enlighten me a bit here because of my extreme lack of experience in this space. But the kyber crystals, and then more particularly the lightsabers, were such a huge focus here. And the very different types that we got to see, we got the different hilts, the more katana type of lightsaber, how dynamic they were with the designs around them, and really what an important part they played. And yes, an anthology series that has no real connections, but each episode, almost every episode, dealt with a lightsaber in some fashion, and it being this cool design or a family heirloom or a major piece of the story. It was so cool. I love that. So is that part of the kind of the anime genre or storytelling, that weapons or a sword plays a major piece of it, or is that something that's particular to this?
Definitely when you're mentioning like katanas in general, I think just because swords, like lightsabers, are a sword. In a nutshell, yeah, a lot of anime will cover swords, but not all. Like they'll do some shows use traditional guns, but I think this just lent itself to like that traditional samurai style of fighting, which is just so much obviously part of Japan's culture. I would imagine that all these different studios didn't really talk to one another, and they probably were all just sent off into their own corners to do what they wanted. So it's interesting that they all kind of had that same conclusion to use the swords like a katana.
One of my other favorite episodes, I believe it was called Lope and Ocho, or that with the bunny, with the rabbit.
Oh, yes.
That was such a cool episode too.
love
But
that
like
one.
at the end, it's like it becomes a bit more about passing on a heritage and the importance around that lightsaber. And so, yeah, in some instances it was used purely as a weapon. And then you go back to the Ninth Jedi and you see the gasps on all these Sith acolytes or sympathizers when they see a lightsaber, because they're talking about, well, lightsabers have disappeared. Like we haven't seen a lightsaber in hundreds of years. And so they bring kind of this aura of importance to the lightsaber. I've been watching lightsabers my whole life, but I felt a different type of importance to them in these shows, which I thought was really, really cool.
My absolute favorite episode was watching Obi-Wan take on Darth Maul and his brother, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan had both lightsabers and he's taking both of them on at the same time. I just like walked out of the room because I was just like, what did I just watch? That was the coolest fight sequence I think I've ever seen in Star Wars, period. What would be one of those moments for you guys?
Like the Lop and Ocho fight, I just love that style. I don't know what studio did it, but it felt very familiar to me, and it had that higher level of detail to the animation that I thought really took the fight to another level. So that one was probably my favorite. And I just like, I love to look at the character, and even like the bunny rabbit character. She looked cool when she was aged up and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of it came down to just the style of animation being my favorite. Like the duel had the coolest stuff, I think, in the overall. It's the look that had the biggest impression. This one just kind of called to me. Like I think if you're gonna blend Star Wars and anime, this would be kind of the thing that encapsulated it.
Yeah, I think to grab another one, I have to keep going back to this well, but the Ninth Jedi is another one. This is one where you get, I think, like 4 or 5, maybe 6 Sith, I guess, acolytes or sympathizers, whatever you want to call them. And you've got 2 Jedi, 3 by the end fighting. It's a pretty wild fight all around, and you're getting, you know, multiple sabers, and that one had a lot going on, but I think it was handled well. Like it made sense, and you see some, like, that's another thing that they do here, I think, well, is that I wouldn't say graphic deaths with the lightsabers, but very pointed deaths, right? Where a bit more than we've seen in Star Wars. You do see Maul chopped in half, and you see Anakin kind of get all chopped up, but that's kind of all in motion. In this, you know, you see certain things where you get a real impression about how intense. You see that in the Lopen Ocho too. That's one where she gets this swipe across the chest.
Yeah.
And then there's the other cool one. I think it's called The Elder, and the way he kills him at the end, that was really cool. Like turning off the lightsaber and then having it, and boom, on it goes, and then he kind of melts at the end. I thought that was a good one too.
That one felt a lot like Ninja Scroll to me.
Yeah.
That definitely had the most Ninja Scroll kind of feel to it. Another anime, it was like similar to, you guys might not be familiar with it, but it's called Samurai Champloo. Just that style, that's one of the styles I think I like the most. It's not as colorful, it's definitely more grounded. You know, you're kind of getting yourself into something more serious in tone, but yeah, I loved the way that they approached all that.
Yeah, no, it was a cool look. So to flip the script, what was your favorite one?
My favorite was definitely, you guys kind of already mentioned it, but it was definitely between Lopen Ocho and episode 3. I think most people are going to keep landing on episode 3. It definitely just has the most well-rounded everything. Great fight. Story was simple but straightforward and got to the point. But to be different, I think I'll lean towards episode 8, just because I really like the story between the 3 characters, and just how she falls in love with her new planet. She didn't have a home. They brought her in, just treats her just like a daughter, and just that whole dynamic. And looking back now, that was only 15 minutes.
I know.
And I'm like, what?
They covered so much ground.
Yeah. I was like, how did they do that?
That had more character development than the whole Eternals movie.
That's what I was saying about, I don't know if it's Star Wars itself or just like the very black and white setup that they have, but that goes a long way. Like, yeah, they made you attached to this whole character to the point where you feel when they're fighting, right? It's wild what they're able to do in 15 minutes or less, even.
Yeah. That is definitely economic storytelling.
Yeah, economic and emotional too, right? Because that's another piece. You want to be economic with the way you tell stories so that it really is streamlined and it works and you're getting the right information to the audience. But emotion is another thing, right? If you're having these deaths, and even between sisters and a father, you need to feel that, right? You can put those titles on people, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't feel that connection between the two. And that end sequence doesn't have that same sort of impact if you don't get that they grew up together, they were close, and then they've separated based on ideals and what their preferences are. And that led to a fight where they're striking each other, right? That is so important in stories, because in the absence of that, you're like, okay, this is just 2 people fighting. You know, what does this actually mean? And it's incredible. Like, when I reflect back on that aspect of it, this is some of the best, most economic Star Wars that we've seen.
Yeah, they take you a long way. And I think the other thing that is certainly a testament to what this did well, that maybe is a shortcoming of some of the live action products, is that they shied away from secrets because they just didn't have the time to deal with them. But because of not having secrets and holding things to showcase later on, they did wonderful things with these characters that let you buy in and understand them. And then because of that, it left you wanting more, right? 7 out of the 9 episodes leave you interested in those characters and in that world and open to seeing more stuff without there being some big mystery box that you've got to unpack, and it's like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen with this thing that they teased, right? Yeah, and that's a huge kudos to the anime studios and the directors and storytellers that were involved in bringing those things to the screen.
It's a really interesting point you bring up there, because that's an organic hook, right? It's not a forced or a built-in hook where it's like, come back for this because this is going to happen next. It's just you organically want to see more of these characters.
In fact, I think they were probably trying to do the opposite, where they're like, we got one shot and it's 14 to 21 minutes and that's all all we get. I don't know. I was in kind of, now that we're talking it through, I'm pretty impressed with how far they took us with those characters in such a short period of time. Whereas, like, one of the complaints about the sequel trilogies, you came out of the other end and there's characters you really didn't care about, despite having spent hours and hours with them, right? So the secrets: don't make movies for sequels or anything for sequels. Take your shot.
That whole hook thing, I think that, yeah, always like traditional TV, you always get that. Like, okay, we got to end the episode on a hook, so you'll come back next week, right? Yeah. And then I guess you don't need it as much with most things just dropping everything at once. I don't know. I think the one thing that really kind of also just took me away was, because originally I honestly wasn't that excited to check this out. Like, it looked cool, but it was one of those just, I like something that kind of, if I'm going to sit there for 9 episodes or 10 episodes, I like a coherent story. So the whole anthology thing was actually something I looked more on a negative. If it was like one story of anime, Star Wars, telling me something, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll check this out. But the anthology thing is, yeah, it just wasn't that appealing. But once I got into it, I was hooked. It was just probably the shortness of the episodes too, just made it feel less like you're devoting so much time to it. So next thing you know, you're like, oh, I'm already on episode 5. I might as well just finish it now. Definitely this left me with just wanting more, especially at least a couple of the episodes. Hey everyone, I hope you've enjoyed part 1 of the review. Part 2 will be dropping tomorrow, so make sure to check that out when that drops. And if you're watching this at a later time, don't worry, the link is already in the description, so make sure to check that out. Also, don't forget, you can follow me or the Nerd Room on Twitter or Instagram. The links will be in the description for that as well. So if you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Hitting that like button is also a huge help to me. And don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when the next video drops, which will be part 2, so you don't want to miss that. That's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video.